My name is Paisley. I am 29 years old, and I live in Seattle, and for 10 years, I was the invisible bank account that kept my family afloat. But the moment everything changed happened in seconds. It was at my brother Justin's wedding in Seattle. The room was full of white flowers and crystal glasses. I walked toward the head table, looking for my seat. Courtney, the bride, stepped in front of me. She didn't smile. She pointed a manicured finger toward the back of the room, right next to the swinging metal doors, where the waiters were rushing in with trays of food. The smell of grease was heavy there. "You can't sit with us, Paisley," she said, her voice low and cold. "You just don't fit the aesthetic. You'll ruin the photos. You can stand back there near the kitchen." I looked at Justin, my brother, the boy whose debts I had paid. He saw me and he looked down at his plate. He wasn't going to save me. My hand tightened around my clutch. Inside was an envelope with a $10,000 check. It was my gift to them. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just turned around, walked out the front door, and took my money with me. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Paisley. I am 29 years old. The heavy wooden doors of the venue closed behind me with a soft, expensive click. It was a sound that sealed off the warmth, the music, and the smell of roasted lamb. I was instantly alone in the corridor. My heels clicked against the marble floor, a lonely, sharp sound that echoed off the high ceilings. I walked past the coat check girl, who looked up from her phone and gave me a confused look. I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. If I stopped, I might turn back. I might apologize. I might go stand by the kitchen doors like a good little sister and wait for a waiter to pity me with a glass of warm champagne. I pushed open the main glass doors and stepped out into the Seattle night. The air was wet and cold. The rain wasn't heavy, but it was steady, that relentless Pacific Northwest drizzle that soaks into your bones. I didn't have an umbrella. I didn't run, I just walked. I let the rain hit my face. It felt real. It felt better than the fake warmth inside that hall. My car was parked in the overflow lot, far away from the valet stand, where the luxury SUVs and sedans were lined up like shiny beetles. I walked past a white G-Wagon. That was Courtney's father's car. I walked past a vintage Jaguar. That belonged to one of Justin's investors. I kept walking until the pavement turned cracked and uneven, until the streetlights were dim. There it was, my gray Honda Civic. It was 8 years old. There was a patch of rust starting on the rear wheel well. The bumper had a dent from when a shopping cart hit it 3 years ago. I never got it fixed because the deductible was $500. And that month, Justin had needed $500 for a networking dinner to impress clients. So I drove a dented car so he could buy steaks for strangers. I unlocked the door manually because the key fob battery had died 2 weeks ago. I slid into the driver's seat. The fabric was cold and stiff. The car smelled like old coffee and the damp floor mats. I threw my purse onto the passenger seat. The envelope, the one with the $10,000 check, slid out and landed on the floor. I stared at it. $10,000. That piece of paper represented 2 years of my life. 2 years of saying no. No to vacations. No to new clothes. No to going out for drinks with coworkers. No to fixing my car. No to buying the good shampoo. I saved every penny, putting it into a separate savings account I named Justin's Wedding. I wanted to give them something amazing. I wanted to be the sister who helped them start their life debt-free. I started the engine. It sputtered for a second before catching. I turned on the wipers and the headlights. The beams cut through the rain, illuminating the wet asphalt. I pulled out of the lot, my tires splashing through puddles. As I merged onto the dark highway, the silence of the car wrapped around me. With no music, no voices, just the rhythmic thump swish of the wipers, my mind began to drift. It drifted back, away from the wedding, into the past. I started thinking about the math. My life was a series of mathematical equations that never balanced in my favor. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel. They were rough. I did my own nails because manicures cost $30. Courtney's nails were perfect long and painted a soft blush pink. Who paid for that? I remembered a Tuesday night 4 years ago. I was 25. I was working as a junior analyst, making decent money but living in a studio apartment to save cash. My phone rang at 11 p.m. It was my mom. Her voice was tight, high-pitched. "Paisley, thank God you answered. It's Justin. He's in trouble." My stomach had dropped. "Is he hurt?" No, there was a problem with his tuition. He forgot to file the paperwork for his grant, and the deadline passed. If he doesn't pay $4,000 by tomorrow morning, they're going to drop his classes. He won't graduate, Paisley. It will ruin his future. 4,000, I had whispered. Mom, I don't have that kind of money lying around. You have your savings, she said. It wasn't a question. You're always so good with money, you save everything. Justin isn't like you. He's a visionary, he's not detail-oriented. Please, Paisley, we can't afford it right now. The house insurance just came due. We'll pay you back, I promise. I paid. I went to the bank the next morning and wired the money. Did they pay me back? Did Justin thank me? No. When I saw him at Christmas, he talked about how hard his semester was. He never mentioned the check. He never mentioned that I ate ramen noodles for 3 months to rebuild that savings. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My knuckles turned white. The rain fell harder. I remembered the business launch. Justin's tech startup. He had a big idea for an app. He needed capital. My dad called a family meeting. We sat around the dining table, the mahogany one I wasn't allowed to scratch. We need to support Justin, Dad said, looking at me. He needs a guarantor for the business loan. The bank needs someone with a steady income and good credit score. That's you, Paisley. Why can't you do it, Dad? I asked. My assets are tied up in the house, he said quickly. And your mother's credit is. Well, you know, you're the only one, Paisley. If you don't sign, the dream dies. Do you want to be the reason your brother fails? The guilt. It was always the weapon of choice. Do you want to be the reason he fails? So I signed. I put my name on a loan for $50,000. I became the guarantor. I risked my financial future on Justin's dream. And what did I get? I got to be the invisible accountant. I managed the books because Justin hated numbers. I saw the expenses. I saw the client dinners that cost $600. I saw the office supplies that were actually new iPads for him and his friends. Whenever I brought it up, he would roll his eyes. Relax, Paisley. You have to spend money to make money. You have a scarcity mindset. That's why you're just an analyst and I'm a CEO. A scarcity mindset. I laughed out loud in the empty car. It was a dry, harsh sound. I had a scarcity mindset because I was the one supplying the abundance for everyone else. I was the well they kept drawing water from, never asking if the well was running dry. I looked in the rearview mirror. My eyes looked tired. There were dark circles under them. I was 29 years old, but tonight I felt 50. I exited the highway and turned into my neighborhood. The houses got smaller. The lawns got patchier. I lived in a complex called The Willows, which was a nice name for a block of beige concrete buildings near the industrial park. I parked my car in my assigned spot. I grabbed my purse and the envelope from the floor. I walked up the 3 flights of concrete stairs. The light in the hallway was flickering, buzzing like a trapped fly. The carpet smelled of damp wool and someone's burnt cooking. I unlocked my door and stepped inside. My apartment was small, 600 square feet. The living room was also the dining room. My furniture was simple, a gray sofa I bought on sale, a small bookshelf, a TV stand I assembled myself. It was clean, it was tidy, but it was the home of someone who was afraid to spend money. I walked into the kitchen. The counters were laminate, peeling slightly at the edges. I put the envelope on the counter. I looked around my small, dim kingdom. Then I closed my eyes and pictured my parents' house. The granite countertops. The stainless steel appliances. The wine fridge. I pictured Justin's apartment downtown. The floor-to-ceiling windows, the exposed brick, the espresso machine that cost more than my car. How did this happen? It happened because I allowed it. I walked to the bathroom and turned on the light. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a woman wearing a dress that was 2 years old. I saw hair that I cut myself to save $50. I saw a face that was plain, unadorned, because makeup was unnecessary spending. I was the support beam in the basement. I was holding up the whole structure, buried in the dark, while they had a party on the roof. They were dancing, drinking, and laughing in the sun, and they never once thought about the beam that was groaning under their weight. And tonight, the beam had cracked. I'm done, I whispered to the mirror. I'm done paying for the party I'm not invited to. I washed my face with cold water. The shock of it felt good. It woke me up. I wasn't just the sister anymore. I wasn't just the daughter. I was the investor. And I had just realized that this investment was a scam. I walked back out to the living room. I didn't sit on the couch. I pulled a hard wooden chair up to my small dining table. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the dark room. It was the only light. It was time to look at the books. It was time to see exactly how much this family cost. I opened my laptop. The fan whirred to life, a low hum in the quiet apartment. I typed in my password. My fingers were steady now, the shaking had stopped. A cold, clinical focus had taken over. I navigated to the bank's website. I had the login credentials for Horizon Tech, Justin's company. I was the guarantor, the financial backbone, so technically I had administrative access. Justin probably assumed I never used it. He thought I was too polite, too trusting, or maybe just too stupid to check. He thought I just signed the papers and looked away. For years, that's exactly what I did. I trusted them. I typed in the username, Horizon Admin, I typed in the password, Empire Builderone, typical Justin. He thought he was building an empire. The dashboard loaded. The blue and white interface of the corporate banking portal filled the screen. The first thing I noticed was the balance in the main operating account. $42,300, I blinked. That was high. Last time Justin had asked me for money, 3 weeks ago, he told me the account was overdrawn. He told me he couldn't pay the server hosting fees. He had begged me for $2,000. I had transferred it from my emergency fund. He had lied. I felt a cold prickle at the back of my neck. I clicked on the transaction history. I set the filter for the last 90 days. The list populated, hundreds of lines of text. I started reading. I expected to see business expenses, server costs, software licenses, freelancer payments, maybe some office rent. Instead, I saw a shopping list for a millionaire's vacation. May 12, the Bridal Suite Seattle, $4,500 May 14, Luxe Florals and Event Design, $8,200 May 15, Seattle Vintage Limousines, $1,200 May 18, NORDSTROM Personal Shopper, $3,400. My breath caught in my throat. I leaned closer to the screen. They were paying for the wedding with the business loan, the loan I had guaranteed. If the business failed, if they couldn't pay this back, the bank wouldn't come after Justin. He had no assets. They would come after me. They would garnish my wages. They would ruin my credit score. I was underwriting their party. I kept scrolling. It got worse. June 1, Maldives Resort and Spa prepayment, $15,000. June 2, Emirates Airlines, First Class X2O, $18,000. I felt physically sick. I put a hand over my mouth. $18,000 for plane tickets. I drove a car worth less than one of those tickets. I bought generic bread to save 50 cents, and they were flying first class to the Maldives on my credit. The anger started to rise, hot and suffocating, but I pushed it down. I needed to see everything. I clicked on the loans tab. This was the big one. The Startup Capital Loan, $50,000. For the last 2 years, I had been sending Justin $800 a month to help pay this loan. He told me the interest rate was variable and it had spiked. He told me the business wasn't making enough profit yet to cover the full monthly payment. He would send me text messages. Hey sis, things are tight this month. Can you send the $800? Don't want the bank to call you. It was a threat wrapped in a plea. Don't want the bank to call you, so I paid, every single month. I treated it like a bill. Rent, electricity, Justin's loan. I looked at the loan status on the screen. Loan ID, number 88,392B status, closed/paid in full date of closure. December 12, 6 months ago, the room went absolutely silent. The humming of the fridge seemed to stop. The rain outside seemed to stop. Paid in full, 6 months ago. I stared at the date. December 12th. That meant for January, February, March, April, May, and June. I had sent Justin $800 a month for a debt that didn't exist. $4,800. He had stolen nearly $5,000 from me in direct cash, on top of the tens of thousands in fraudulent spending on the card. I opened a new tab and logged into my own bank account. I pulled up the transfers. There they were. Transfer to Justin Miller, $800. Transfer to Justin Miller, $800. I went back to the business account. I searched for incoming transfers. There were none from me. I searched for the $800 amounts. I found them in Justin's personal account transfers, which were linked for overdraft protection. He was taking my money, putting it into his personal checking account, and spending it. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't bad bookkeeping. It was theft. My brother was stealing from me. My parents, who knew the loan was paid off surely because they bragged about how well the business was doing, they let him do it. I sat back in my hard wooden chair. I felt numb. All those times I sat at family dinners. All those times I listened to Courtney talk about their struggles with wedding planning. All those times my dad told me I needed to be more generous. They were laughing at me. They must have been. How could they not be? I was the useful idiot. I was the golden goose that laid eggs whenever they asked, and they didn't even have to feed me. I looked at the kitchen door where Courtney had banished me. "You'll ruin the aesthetic." That was the truest thing she had ever said. I ruined the aesthetic because I was the reality. I was the cost. I was the labor. And nobody wants to see the labor when they're enjoying the luxury. I looked at the laptop screen again. The numbers were crisp and black. $42,300 available credit. Guarantor, Paisley Miller. I wasn't a sister. I wasn't a daughter. I was a utility, like the power company. Like the water company. And what happens when you don't pay your utility bill? What happens when you steal electricity? The lights go out. I reached out and touched the screen, tracing the line that said paid in full. My sadness evaporated. The grief I had felt in the car was gone. In its place was something cold, hard, and incredibly sharp. I didn't want an apology. I didn't want them to say sorry. Apologies are words. Words are free. My family didn't value free things. They only valued money. So I was going to speak to them in the only language they understood. I was going to audit them. I moved my mouse to the Settings tab. I clicked on Guarantor Controls. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was beating slow and steady like a war drum. "Okay," I said to the empty room. "Let's see how much you really love the aesthetic when you have to pay for it." I prepared to click. The laptop screen was the only source of light in my dark apartment. The blue glow illuminated my face, casting shadows in the hollows of my eyes. I sat perfectly still. The rain outside had turned into a storm, lashing against the thin window pane, but inside, everything was quiet. I was staring at the Guarantor Controls panel. It was a simple page, just a few lines of text and a few toggles. It looked so boring for something so destructive. Primary Guarantor, Paisley Miller Liability Status, 100% Administrative Rights. Full below my name, there was a section titled Authorization and Security. And there, in red text, was the link, Revoke Guarantor Status and Freeze Credit Lines. I hovered the mouse cursor over it. The little white arrow turned into a pointing hand. My brain started to play tricks on me. It was the old programming. The good sister programming. "Don't do it, Paisley, it's his wedding week. This is cruel, he's your brother, he made a mistake. Mom and Dad will be devastated. You'll destroy the family." I paused, my hand hovered. I thought about Christmas last year. I had given everyone thoughtful gifts. I bought Mom a cashmere scarf she wanted. I bought Dad a vintage record player. I bought Justin a smartwatch. They had given me a gift card to a grocery store. "We know you like to cook," Mom had said, smiling that tight, dismissive smile. "And we know money is tight for you." Money was tight because I was paying their bills. I thought about the kitchen door exile tonight. The way Courtney looked at me, like I was trash, like I was a stain on her perfect white tablecloth. "You don't fit the aesthetic." My finger twitched on the trackpad. "I am not the one destroying this family," I said aloud. My voice was steady. "I am just stopping the subsidies." I pressed down. Click. A pop-up window appeared in the center of the screen. It was a warning box with a yellow triangle. Warning: Revoking GUARANTORSHIP action. Immediate freeze of credit facility number 88,392 consequence. All associated cards will be declined. All recurring payments, server hosting, payroll, vendor payments, will be halted immediately. The bank will issue a demand for payment in full to the primary business entity. Are you sure you want to proceed? There were two buttons, cancel and confirm. I looked at the word confirm. If I clicked this, Justin's credit cards, the ones currently paying for the champagne in Seattle and the villa in the Maldives, would stop working. The servers hosting his app would try to charge the card tomorrow morning for the monthly fee. The charge would bounce. The hosting company, Amazon Web Services, doesn't play games. They would spin down the servers within hours. His website would go dark. His app would crash. His investors would get service unavailable errors. It was the nuclear option. But then I looked at the tab I still had open in the background. Loan paid in full, DEC 12. Transfer to Justin Miller, $800. He stole from me. He looked me in the eye and stole from me month after month. He didn't make a mistake. He made a choice. I moved the cursor to confirm. I didn't slam the button. I didn't cry. I just applied a gentle pressure with my index finger. Click. The screen went white for a second as it processed. Then a green banner appeared at the top of the page. Success, guarantor status revoked. Assets frozen. Notices sent. It was done. I sat there, waiting to feel bad, waiting for the panic. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt clean. I wasn't finished yet. I navigated to the server hosting account. I had those logins too because I had set up the account when Justin was too busy networking. I logged in. Billing status. Active payment method, business visa ending in 4490. I clicked edit payment method. I deleted the card. Then I went to administrative access. I saw Justin's email listed as admin. I saw Courtney's email listed as viewer. And mine. Root user. I clicked on Justin's name. Remove user. Click. I clicked on Courtney's name. Remove user. Click. I changed the root password to a random string of 20 characters that I wrote down on a sticky note. Now, even if they wanted to log in to update the payment method, they couldn't. They were locked out of their own company. The only person who could turn the lights back on was me. I closed the browser tab. I sat back and exhaled. A long, deep breath that emptied my lungs. I looked at my phone on the table. It was quiet. It was 1 a.m. on Sunday morning. The bank computers were talking to each other now. The signals were traveling through the fiber optic cables. The freeze was propagating through the system. Somewhere in a database, a switch had flipped. The credit card in Justin's wallet, the one he was probably using right now to buy a round of drinks for his groomsmen, was now just a piece of plastic. I picked up my phone. I didn't block them. No, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see the moment they realized the ATM was closed. I went to the kitchen and poured the rest of the cold coffee down the sink. I washed the mug. I dried it. I put it away in the cupboard. I walked to my bedroom. I took off the dress I had worn to the wedding. I hung it up carefully. I put on my pajamas, old flannel pants and a soft t-shirt. I crawled into bed and pulled the duvet up to my chin. The rain was still hammering against the window, but now it sounded like applause. I closed my eyes. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't worrying about money. Because for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't spending mine on them. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up at 7 a.m. My internal clock wouldn't let me sleep late, even on weekends. The storm had passed. The sky outside was a flat, bruise-colored gray. I lay in bed for a long time, staring at the ceiling. This is the part where I should have been panicked. The morning after regret. Usually when I stood up for myself, which was rare, I would immediately backtrack. I would apologize. I would fix it. Oh, I'm sorry I couldn't lend you the money, Dad. Here, I'll move some things around. I'm sorry I couldn't stay late to help, Justin. I'll come over now. I was conditioned to fix things. I was the fixer. But as I lay there, wrapped in my cheap duvet, I analyzed that feeling. Why did I always fix it? It wasn't love. I realized that now. If it was love, I would feel warmth. I would feel connection. What I felt was obligation and fear. Fear that if I stopped paying, they would stop pretending to care. I sat up and swung my legs over the side of the bed. I started to think about the sunk cost fallacy. I use it in my job all the time. It's a business term. It describes the tendency to continue investing in a losing project because you've already invested so much. You think, I can't quit now, I've already spent $1 million. I have to make it work. So you spend another $1 million, and you lose that too. I walked to the kitchen and started making coffee. The ritual was soothing. Grind the beans. Boil the water, pour over. I thought about the investments I had made in my family. Investment 1, emotional labor. I listened to my mom complain about Dad for hours. I helped Courtney plan her wedding colors when her bridesmaids flaked. I wrote Justin's business plan because he couldn't focus. Investment 2, financial capital. The tuition, the car repairs, the business loan. The loans that were never repaid. The wedding gift I almost gave them. Investment 3, loyalty. I stayed in Seattle instead of taking a job in New York because the family needs you. I skipped vacations to be available for their crises. And what was the return on investment, ROI? I looked around my kitchen. The ROI was a seat by the kitchen door. The ROI was being lied to about a loan payoff. The ROI was being mocked behind my back. The project was a failure. My family was a failed startup, and I had been the angel investor keeping it on life support for a decade. If this were a business, I would have cut my losses 5 years ago. I would have liquidated the assets and walked away. But because it was family, I kept pouring money into the black hole. I took my coffee to the window. I realized I wasn't dealing with family dynamics. I was dealing with a parasitic relationship. A parasite doesn't hate the host. The parasite needs the host. Justin didn't hate me. He needed me. But he didn't respect me. You don't respect the thing you feed on. You just expect it to be there. I sipped the hot coffee. I am not the host anymore, I said softly. I was the scalpel. I was cutting them out. My phone buzzed on the counter, a single, short vibration. I turned and looked at it. The screen lit up. Text message from Justin. Hey, card got declined at the hotel breakfast. Weird. Can you check the bank login? Probably just a fraud trigger or something. Fix it ASAP, Courtney is annoyed. I stared at the message. Fix it ASAP, not good morning. Not sorry about last night. Not are you okay, just fix it. And Courtney is annoyed, he didn't know yet. He thought it was a glitch. He thought I was still his employee. I didn't reply. 5 minutes later. Another buzz, text message from Justin. Paisley, answer me. Card is dead. I tried the other one too, embarrassing. Log in and clear the hold. I took another sip of coffee. It tasted delicious. 10 minutes later, the phone started ringing. Incoming call, Dad, I let it ring. I watched the name flash on the screen. Dad. The man who told me to sign the loan because I was the responsible one. The man who watched me drive a dented car while he drank $60 wine. The ringing stopped. Then it started again immediately. Incoming call, Justin. He was panicking now. The breakfast bill was sitting there and his plastic was useless. I picked up the phone. I didn't answer it. I pressed the silence button and placed it face down on the table. I wasn't going to argue with them. I wasn't going to explain myself. I had already spoken. My language was the authorization revoked banner. I went to my closet and pulled out a pair of jeans and a sweater. I dressed slowly. I had a plan for today. I was going to go to a bookstore. I was going to buy a book, a hardcover, brand new, full price. Then I was going to go to a nice cafe, order a fancy lunch, and read. I was going to spend $50 on myself. And it was going to be the best money I ever spent. As I walked out the door, the phone was buzzing again. I locked the door behind me. Let them ring. The bank is closed. 3 days. It took exactly 3 days for the reality to hit them. I went to work on Monday morning like a ghost. I sat in my cubicle, answered emails, and updated spreadsheets for my actual job. My coworkers asked me how the wedding was. It was lovely, I said. The flowers were beautiful. I didn't tell them I was exiled to the kitchen doors. I didn't tell them I left before the salad was served. I just did my work. I felt a strange sense of calm, like the eye of a hurricane. I knew the storm was spinning around me, but inside my little radius of silence, the air was still. My phone was in my desk drawer. I had turned off the ringer, but I had left the vibration on. BZZT, BZZT, BZZT. It vibrated against the wood of the drawer every few minutes. It was like a trapped insect. I didn't look at it until lunch. When I finally opened the drawer and unlocked the screen, I saw the timeline of their collapse. It started with confusion. Monday, 9 a.m. Seattle time, /Monday, 10 p.m. Maldives time, Justin. Hey, trying to check into the villa upgrade. Card declined. Called the bank, they said account frozen. Call them ASAP, this is humiliating. Justin, Paisley, are you getting these? The concierge is staring at us. Justin. I'm trying the business Amex. Also declined. What is going on? I ate my sandwich. It was a turkey club I made at home. It tasted good. I took a bite and read the next wave. Monday, 10:30 a.m. Courtney. Paisley, this isn't funny. We are on our honeymoon. Justin is freaking out. Fix this now. Courtney. My dad is asking why we can't pay for the seaplane transfer. Do not make us look bad in front of my family. I imagined them. They were in one of the most beautiful places on earth. Turquoise water, white sand, and they were standing at a reception desk, sweating, arguing with a polite hotel manager who was telling them their credit was no good. I imagined Justin's face. He would be red. He would be blustering, trying to use his CEO voice. Do you know who I am? There must be a mistake in your system. But the system wasn't broken. The system was working perfectly. For the first time, the system was actually reflecting the truth. They had no money. I scrolled down. The tone changed around noon. Monday, 12:45 p.m. Dad. Paisley, pick up the phone. Justin just called me via Wi-Fi. He says all the cards are dead. He says you locked the accounts. Tell me this is a mistake. Dad, we are family. You don't play games with family. Dad, stop being dramatic. I know you were upset about the seating chart, but this is childish. Turn the cards back on. We can talk about your feelings when they get back. talk about my feelings. That phrase made me stop chewing. For 29 years, nobody cared about my feelings. My feelings were things to be managed, suppressed, or ignored. If I was sad, I was too sensitive. If I was angry, I was being difficult. If I was proud of an achievement, I was showing off. But now, suddenly, my feelings mattered. Why? Because my feelings had a price tag attached to them. I put the phone back in the drawer. I didn't reply. I went back to work. By Tuesday, the texts had turned into threats. Tuesday, 8 a.m. Justin. You realize you're killing the company, right? The server hosting fee is due tomorrow. If that card doesn't run, the app goes down. You are destroying my livelihood over a seating chart. He still didn't get it. He thought this was about a chair. He thought this was a tantrum. He didn't realize it was an audit. I went home Tuesday night. My apartment was quiet. I sat on my couch with a cup of tea. I opened my laptop, but not to fix anything. I opened it to watch. I logged into my personal email. I had set up alerts for the business accounts years ago. Alert: AWS billing payment failed. Alert: Google Workspace payment failed. Alert: Slack enterprise payment failed. The dominoes were falling. I sipped my tea. Then my phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at it. Usually when Mom called, I felt a knot of anxiety. What did I do wrong? What do they need? Today I just felt curiosity. I answered. Hello, Paisley. Her voice was shrill. She was crying. How could you do this to your brother? He's stranded. He can't even buy dinner. He has a return ticket, I said calmly, and I'm sure Courtney has a credit card. That's not the point, she screamed. He is the man. He is supposed to provide. You are humiliating him. Courtney's father had to pay for their dinner last night. Justin is devastated. He's crying. Paisley, your brother is crying. I cried on Saturday night, I said, in the parking lot. Oh, stop it, she snapped. The tears vanished instantly, replaced by anger. This is about a seat, a stupid seat. You are ruining his life because you have low self-esteem. Grow up, Paisley. You are being selfish. You have always been jealous of him. Jealous? I asked. Jealous that he takes risks. Jealous that he has big dreams. You're happy with your little life, your little apartment, your little job, but you can't stand to see him shine. You want to drag him down to your level. I listened to her words. They were designed to hurt. They were designed to make me feel small, but they didn't work. Mom, I said, my voice was steady. I'm not jealous, I'm broke, or I was. Until Saturday. What are you talking about? I saw the accounts. I saw the loan repayment. I know he paid off the bank loan 6 months ago and kept taking my money. I know he spent $20,000 of company money on this vacation. There was silence on the other end. A long, heavy silence. She knew. He was going to pay you back, she stammered. It was a bridge loan. Businesses have cash flow issues. It wasn't a business expense, Mom. It was a honeymoon. And the loan I was paying wasn't a bridge loan. It was a ghost loan. It was fraud. Don't use that word, she hissed. He's your brother. He's a thief, I said. And you're his accomplice. If you don't fix this, she said, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone, don't bother coming to Thanksgiving. Don't bother coming to Christmas. You will be dead to us. I looked around my quiet apartment. I looked at the rain against the window. I thought about Thanksgiving. Me in the kitchen, cooking for 12 hours while they watched football. Me doing the dishes while they ate pie. Me listening to them brag about Justin's success. Okay, I said. What? Okay, I repeated. I won't come. You're bluffing. You have nowhere else to go. You have nobody. I have myself, I said. And I have my money. I hung up. I sat there for a long time, holding the phone. My hand was shaking slightly, but not from fear, from adrenaline. I had done it. I had said the thing I was never supposed to say. I checked my email again. Alert: Horizon Tech server suspension notice. The lights were going out in the Maldives. The lights were going out in Seattle. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't rushing to find a flashlight. I was just sitting in the dark, enjoying the peace. Wednesday came. The silence from my phone was heavier now. They had stopped the frantic texting. Now they were regrouping. They were probably talking to lawyers. Or maybe they were just waiting for me to break. I took a personal day from work. I needed to think. I drove to a park by the water. The rain had stopped, and the sun was trying to break through the gray clouds. I sat on a bench and watched the ferries cross the sound. I started thinking about the term glass child. I had read about it once in an article. It refers to a sibling of a child who demands a lot of attention, usually due to illness or disability. The parents look right through the healthy child to tend to the needy one. The healthy child becomes made of glass, present but invisible. But in my family, Justin wasn't sick. He wasn't disabled. He was just loud. He was demanding. He was the protagonist. From the time we were kids, Justin was the main character. If Justin got a C in math, they hired a tutor and promised him a reward if he got a B. If I got an A in math, they said, "That's good, Paisley, we don't have to worry about you. We don't have to worry about you." That was the mantra of my childhood. I remembered my 10th birthday. Justin had a soccer game the same day. He lost. He was crying in the car. My parents spent the whole drive home comforting him, buying him ice cream to make him feel better. We ate the ice cream. Nobody mentioned it was my birthday until we got home, and I asked if we could have cake. "Oh, Paisley," Mom had sighed. "Justin is really upset right now. Can we do cake tomorrow? Don't be selfish." I was 10. I learned then, your needs are secondary to his moods. I remembered high school graduation. I was valedictorian. I gave a speech. Justin had dropped out of college that same month to find himself. At my graduation dinner, the conversation wasn't about my grades or my future. It was about Justin's brave journey and how he was going to disrupt the industry. I sat there in my cap and gown, eating my chicken, nodding along. I was the infrastructure. I was the road he drove on. Roads aren't supposed to have needs. Roads get paved over. Roads get driven on. If a road develops a crack, you patch it up quickly so the traffic doesn't stop. But I wasn't just a road. I was a person. I looked at the water. Why did I accept it for so long? Because I thought that being low maintenance was a virtue. I thought that if I asked for nothing, I was being good. I thought that if I solved problems, I was being useful. I confused utility with love. I thought if I am useful enough, they can't leave me. But they didn't leave me. They just used me. I realized something terrifying as I sat on that bench. I was invisible because I made myself invisible. I never caused a scene. I never said no. I never demanded a seat at the table. I accepted the seat by the kitchen door long before Courtney assigned it to me. I had been sitting by the kitchen door my whole life. I stood up. The wind was cold on my face. "No more," I said. "Breaking the pattern is painful. It feels like breaking a bone. When you shatter the glass, people get cut. My mom was cut. My dad was cut. Justin was bleeding out in the Maldives. They were hurt because the invisible wall they leaned on had suddenly disappeared. They fell down because I stepped away. But that wasn't my fault. You shouldn't lean your entire weight on a person you refuse to see." I walked back to my car. I felt different. I felt solid. I wasn't made of glass anymore. I was made of flesh and bone and anger and money. I drove to the mall. I went to a store I usually never entered. A high-end department store. I walked to the makeup counter. "Can I help you?" the woman asked. "Yes," I said. "I want a lipstick, red, bright red." "Are you sure?" she asked, looking at my plain clothes. "Maybe a neutral tone." "No," I said. "I want the red. The one that says, 'Look at me.'" I bought it. It cost $40. It was ridiculous. I went to the car and put it on in the rearview mirror. My lips were blazing red. I looked in the mirror and I saw Paisley, not the sister, not the daughter. Not the wallet, just me. I smiled. The red lipstick made my teeth look white. It made my eyes look bright. I checked my phone. Still no apology, but there was an email. From AWS support subject. "Final termination notice body. Your account is in arrears. Services have been suspended. Data deletion will commence in 48 hours. I looked at the email. Data deletion. Justin's app code. His customer database. His empire. It was all sitting on a server that was about to be wiped clean because he couldn't pay a $200 bill without my help. I could save it. I could log in, put in my credit card, and save him. It would take 2 minutes. I looked at my red lips in the mirror. "Not today," I whispered. I started the car. I wasn't the glass child anymore. I was the brick wall, and they had just crashed right into me Thursday. The silence broke. But not with a text. With a legal notification. I was at work when I got an email from a lawyer I didn't know. A Mr. Sterling, representing Horizon Tech and Justin Miller. It was a demand letter. It claimed that my actions, revoking the guarantor status and removing the payment methods, constituted a breach of fiduciary duty and intentional interference with business relations. They were threatening to sue me for damages if I didn't restore access immediately. I read the letter in my cubicle. My hands started to shake, not from fear, from rage. They were suing me, they stole my money, they humiliated me, and now they were suing me. I picked up my phone. I didn't call Mom. I didn't call Justin, I called Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was an old friend of my grandfather's. He was a contract lawyer. He wasn't expensive, but he was mean. He was the one who had reviewed the original loan documents 3 years ago. I remembered what he told me then. Paisley, this is a bad idea, but if you're going to do it, we are adding a call-on-demand clause. It means that if the borrower defaults or misuses funds, you can demand full repayment of your guaranteed portion immediately. Justin had signed it without reading it. He was too busy picking out his office chair. Mr. Henderson, I said when he answered, it's Paisley Miller. Paisley, his voice was gravelly. I wondered when you'd call. I heard about the wedding from my niece. She said you walked out. I did, I said. And now they are threatening to sue me. Send me the letter, he said. I forwarded it. A few minutes later, he called back. He was laughing. This is a joke, Paisley. They have no case. You were the guarantor, not an employee. You have the right to withdraw your backing at any time, especially if there is evidence of financial mismanagement. Do we have evidence? I have the bank records showing he paid off the bank loan 6 months ago but kept taking payments from me. And I have the records of him using the business account for a honeymoon. Beautiful, Henderson said. That's fraud, Paisley, criminal fraud. We could have him arrested. But I assume you don't want to send your brother to jail. I paused. Did I? No, that wouldn't be justice. That would be a tragedy. I didn't want him in a cell. I wanted him in reality. No jail, I said. I just want out. I want my money back, and I want them to leave me alone. Then we trigger the nuclear option, Henderson said. The call-on-demand clause. Since you effectively acted as a private lender for the last 6 months, and since your credit secured his assets, we can call the debt. We demand repayment of the $50,000 guarantee plus the stolen funds. Immediate payment. And if he can't pay, then we seize the assets, the car, the computers, the intellectual property. We liquidate Horizon Tech. Do it, I said. Are you sure, Paisley? Once we file this, there's no going back. This is war. I looked at the red lipstick stain on my coffee cup. They started the war, Mr. Henderson. I'm just finishing it. All right, I'm filing the motion now, and I'm sending a response to Mr. Sterling. It will be on their desk in an hour. I hung up. I sat there and waited. An hour passed. Then the internet started to break. I went to the Horizon Tech website. Error 404. Site not found. I checked the app on my phone. Connection error. Unable to reach server. I checked LinkedIn. I saw posts from 2 of Justin's employees. So, I guess I'm looking for work. Horizon Tech just imploded. Servers down, payroll bounced. CEO is in the Maldives and not answering. Startup life is wild. It was happening. The structure was collapsing. Without my credit to back it, the bank had pulled the plug. Without the bank, the vendors quit. Without the vendors, the product vanished. It was amazing how fragile it all was. He acted like he was a titan of industry, but he was just a boy with a maxed-out credit card and a sister he took for granted. My phone started buzzing. It wasn't a text this time, it was a flood. Justin, what did you do? My lawyer just called me. He says you're demanding $145,000. Are you insane, Justin? The investors are calling me. They can't access the dashboard. Paisley, turn it back on, now, Justin. I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry about the seat. I'm sorry about the money, just turn it back on. I watched the texts roll in. He was sorry. He was sorry because the consequences had arrived. He wasn't sorry when he sat me by the kitchen door. He wasn't sorry when he booked the first-class tickets. He was only sorry now that the guillotine blade was falling. I didn't reply. I let Mr. Henderson do the talking. I went home early. I printed out a spreadsheet. It was a list of every dollar I had given them over 10 years. Tuition, rent, bailouts, the ghost loan payments, the wedding expenses on the card. It totaled $145,320.45. It was a house. It was a retirement fund. It was a life. And it was gone. But now I had a piece of paper that said it was a debt, and I was going to collect. I sat in my living room and waited. I knew they were coming. They would cut the honeymoon short. They would fly back. They would come here to scream at me in person. I looked at the door. I had installed a heavy security chain 2 days ago. I locked the deadbolt. I slid the chain into place. I wasn't the peacekeeper anymore. I was the collection agency. It happened on Friday night. The rain had returned. It was slashing against the windows, a violent, windy storm. I heard the car first, tires screeching on the wet pavement, car doors slamming, then heavy footsteps running up the concrete stairs. Bang, 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 fists on my door. Paisley, open this door, it was Dad. Paisley, I know you're in there, open up, it was Justin. My heart hammered in my chest, this was it. The physical confrontation. The old Paisley would have opened the door immediately, she would have been crying, she would have been begging for forgiveness. The new Paisley took a sip of water. I walked to the door. I didn't unlock the deadbolt yet. Go away, I said. My voice was calm but loud enough to be heard through the wood. Open the door, Paisley, Justin screamed. He sounded unhinged. You ruined everything, the investors pulled out, the company is dead, do you hear me? It's dead, I know, I said. I killed it. There was a silence, a shocked silence. You bitch, Courtney's voice, she was there too. We had to fly home in economy. Do you know how embarrassing that was? We had to borrow money from my dad to get off the island. Good, I said. Now you know how it feels to need a loan. Paisley, open this door right now, my mom said. Her voice was the scariest. It was the mom voice, the one that commanded obedience. We need to talk about this like a family. We aren't a family, I said. We are a business arrangement, and the contract is terminated. Open the door, Justin slammed his shoulder against it. The wood groaned. I unlocked the deadbolt. I opened the door, but the security chain held tight. The door opened only 4 inches. I saw them through the crack. They looked terrible. Justin was unshaven, wearing wrinkled linen clothes from the resort. His face was red and blotchy. Courtney's hair was frizzy, her makeup smeared. She looked wet and cold. Mom and Dad looked old. They looked frightened. They saw me. I was wearing a clean sweater. My hair was brushed. I had the red lipstick on. I looked at them through the gap. Paisley, Dad said, stepping forward. Take off the chain. Let us in. We can fix this. You can call the lawyer. You can retract the demand. No, I said. I picked up the envelope from the table next to the door. I slid it through the crack. It hit Justin's chest. He grabbed it. What is this? That is the bill, I said. He opened it. He looked at the spreadsheet. $145,000, he scoffed. You're crazy, I don't have this money. I know you don't, I said. But you have assets. You have the Porsche. You have your condo downtown. You have the remaining equipment. You take my car? Justin looked at me with genuine horror. But you're my sister. No, I said. I looked him right in the eye. I'm not your sister right now, I'm your lender. And you are in default. Paisley, please, Mom sobbed. She reached through the crack, trying to touch my arm. Don't do this, we love you. I pulled back. Her fingers grasped at empty air. You don't love me, I said quietly. You love that I pay for things. You love that I fix things. You love that I don't complain. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have sat me by the kitchen door. If you loved me, you wouldn't have stolen $5,000 from me while flying first class. It was a mistake, Justin yelled. I was going to pay you back. When the company went big. The company was never going to go big, Justin, I said. Because you were spending the profits on flowers and vacations before you even earned them. You aren't a CEO. You're a child playing dress-up with my money. He looked like he was going to punch the door. You have 30 days to respond to the lawyer, I said. If you don't pay, we file for asset seizure. Mr. Henderson is very excited about it. I'll never speak to you again, Courtney shrieked. You are uninvited from our lives. Courtney, I said, looking at her cold eyes. I walked out of your wedding, I uninvited myself. I looked at my parents one last time. Go home, I said. Manage your own money, figure it out. I'm retired. Paisley, Dad shouted. I closed the door, I threw the deadbolt, click. I heard them screaming for another minute. Then, I heard them arguing with each other. I told you to call her back. Shut up, Justin, this is your fault. Why didn't you stop her, Dad? Then footsteps going down the stairs. Car doors slamming, tires on pavement. And then silence. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the door. My heart was racing, but it wasn't hurting. It felt like I had just run a marathon. I was exhausted, but I had finished. I slid down to the floor and sat there. I looked at the empty apartment. It was over. The double life was over. The lies were over. I was alone. But for the first time, I wasn't lonely. I was free. Saturday morning, 1 week exactly since the wedding. The sun was shining. It was a rare, beautiful Seattle day. The storm had washed everything clean. I spent the morning cleaning. I cleaned my apartment. I scrubbed the floors. I washed the windows. Then I cleaned my digital life. I sat at my computer. I deleted the Horizon Tech folder. I deleted the wedding budget spreadsheet. I deleted the family loans tracker. I opened my phone contacts. I scrolled to Mom. Block contact. I scrolled to Dad. Block contact. I scrolled to Justin. block contact. I scrolled to Courtney, block contact. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it out of necessity. I needed a quarantine. I needed time to heal without their voices in my head. Maybe one day, years from now, I would unblock them. Maybe, but not today. I made a cup of coffee and sat on my small balcony. I watched the people walking on the street below, couples holding hands, people walking dogs. I thought about the peacekeeper's paradox. I had spent my whole life trying to keep the peace, but peacekeepers aren't peaceful. To keep the peace, you have to absorb the war. You have to take the hits so others don't have to. You have to swallow your anger so others can remain calm. The peacekeeper is the most war-torn person in the room. By stepping away, by causing a conflict, I had finally found actual peace. It was quiet. I had $145,000 less than I should have had. I might never get that money back. Justin might declare bankruptcy. I might get nothing. But I had my paycheck. I had my credit score. I had my future. I took a deep breath. The air smelled like rain and pine needles. I realized that my worth wasn't in my wallet. My worth was in my boundaries. I thought about you, the person reading this. Maybe you are the Paisley in your family. Maybe you are the one who fixes everything. Maybe you are the one who pays the bills, or smooths over the arguments, or listens to the complaints. Maybe you are sitting by the kitchen door right now, hoping that if you are just good enough, they will invite you to the main table. I need you to hear me. They won't. They like you by the door. It makes them feel important. Don't wait for them to see you. Don't wait for them to pay you back. They can't pay you back because they don't think they owe you anything. They think they own you. Stand up, pick up your envelope, walk out the door. It will be scary. It will be raining. They will call you selfish. They will call you crazy. But keep walking. Because the moment you stop paying for your seat at the table is the moment you realize you can build your own table. I finished my coffee. I put the mug down. I stood up and looked at the city. My name is Paisley. I am 29 years old. I have a dented Honda Civic. I have a small apartment. And for the first time in my life, I have myself. And that is enough.